Fiance cheated. So I ghosted her, started a new life and slept with her mom. The events took place between 2013 and 2016. It's been a few years since everything happened, and I've never told anyone about it in my new life. Tonight, I've got some good wine to drink, so I thought I'd share my story. I was studying finance for my post-grad degree, while she was studying contractual law. It's worth mentioning that we both ended up successful in our own ways. But I wasn't too bad looking either. Standing at 5 feet 11 inches and weighing 190 pounds, I enjoyed going to the gym. While I wasn't a star athlete, I was definitely in good shape. However, I was pretty shy and hadn't been in many relationships before meeting her. The first time we met, we hit it off right away. We talked all night and soon enough, we were texting and calling each other every day. We started going on weekly dates, and after a year, she moved in with me. I got along well with her family, especially her mom, since her dad was a bit distant with everyone. It felt like a whirlwind romance. After 2.5 amazing years filled with vacations, hiking trips, and luxury getaways, I decided to propose to her. And she said yes. I was ecstatic. She took charge of planning the wedding, and we were already discussing our future together, buying a house, having children, and going on family trips. It seemed like everything was falling into place perfectly. Then something changed. One evening after we both got home to our apartment, she seemed a bit distant. I noticed it right away because we were always very affectionate towards each other. At first, it only happened about once a week for the first month after the proposal, but then it became more frequent. I wouldn't have been too concerned, but I used to listen to a lot of Reddit on YouTube, so I decided to wait and observe. These periods of ignoring me would only last a couple of hours, and then she would go back to normal. But after 6 months, with the wedding just a year away, it started happening almost every night. Sex was still great, and our relationship with her parents was still good. However, over Thanksgiving at her parents' home in Louisville, Kentucky, we lived just north of DC, she acted standoffish towards me in front of her mother. Now, her mother was quite observant. She pulled her daughter aside to talk to her, and I could hear them arguing. After some heated but muffled words, they returned to the rest of the family and acted like nothing had happened. I thought I could ask her about it later, so I did. She wasn't willing to talk about it and asked me to wait until we were home to discuss it. I agreed because I loved her deeply and believed we could work through anything. Her mother resembled an older version of her, with the same stunning looks and just a few grays in her long, thick blonde hair. This detail becomes important later on. Back home, I asked her about it, but she was unwilling to discuss it. After pressing her for a week, she finally confessed that a guy at her work was trying to get to know her better. She wanted to be forthcoming, so she showed me her phone. As I looked through it, I noticed that all the texts that would have happened during the time she was withdrawing from me were removed. There was nothing inappropriate in the texts. However, I went into her phone settings and turned on her locator as we shared the same phone plan. I honestly thought it would reassure me that she wasn't doing anything wrong. Was I wrong? The second weekend after Thanksgiving, she had a company Christmas party. I had planned on going but came down with food poisoning and had to cancel. She had a girlfriend pick her up from our apartment as they planned on drinking a lot and had a designated driver for the evening. We had planned on staying out all night, so I told her to have a great time and that I would see her in the morning. As I was sick, barely able to leave the toilet for more than 30 minutes, I grabbed my phone and checked her location. First, she was at a restaurant, then at the venue of the company party, and later at a bar. None of this concerned me until I saw her phone stop at a downtown hotel. At that point, I was miserable in more ways than one. I finally fell asleep from sheer exhaustion around 2 a.m. When I woke up at 7 a.m., she was still at the hotel. At noon, she finally came home, and I was starting to feel better. She greeted me with love, and I asked her about the previous night without mentioning anything about knowing her locations. She talked about the restaurant, the party, and the bar, but then claimed she went to her girlfriend's house to spend the night, the first lie. Over the next 3 months, she started working later and later, 3 to 4 days a week. As I began to question her about it, she became increasingly defensive. One evening when she didn't come home until late, I talked to her mom. I brought up the Thanksgiving conversation, and her mom confessed that she suspected her daughter might be straying from our relationship based on her body language. She also mentioned that her daughter had been growing more distant in their weekly text conversations. With all these thoughts swirling in my mind, I kept my suspicions to myself. 2 weeks later at work, I received a new project that required me to travel to the Midwest Monday through Friday for the next 5 weeks, starting in 2 weeks. It came with a raise, and when I shared the news with my fiancée, she seemed genuinely happy for me. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that her excitement wasn't for the same reasons as mine. So, I went online and ordered 4 motion-activated spy cameras for our apartment. I placed one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in our bedroom, and one in the hallway. They were discreet and connected to the internet through a hidden network, ensuring they couldn't be detected on our Wi-Fi network. I set up passwords for the cameras and waited. During my first week away, she had her girlfriends over the first 2 nights and never stayed late at work. But on the 3rd night, a guy showed up. I was furious. I sat in my hotel room, yelling at the monitor and hurling insults at her. They ended up being intimate, first on the couch, then in our bed. She contorted herself in ways I didn't know were possible for him. What hurt the most was when I called her while watching them, and she paused their activities to answer. She claimed she was at the gym, panting heavily. But as soon as the call ended, she resumed what she was doing. When I returned home on Friday evening, I avoided her and went straight to bed. Early on Saturday, I went cycling, consumed by anger. I biked over 50 miles from our apartment, not even realizing it. The farthest I'd ever biked before was 30 miles. But that day, I covered 105.6 miles. Exhausted upon returning, I took a shower. Later that evening, we went out with friends and drank a lot. Is it considered breakup sex when the person you're about to break up with is oblivious? I felt like I was about to burst. Heartbreak, anger, and betrayal swirled around inside me. She, who used to be so attentive, seemed completely unaware of my pain. It hurt so much because I loved her deeply. Finally, I confided in one of our mutual friends, who revealed that they all knew about her infidelity for months. I was shocked to learn this. They all felt sorry for me, yet no one bothered to tell me a thing. That explained why they gradually stopped inviting us out with them about 3 months ago. Determined to win her back, I planned an entire weekend dedicated to spoiling her in every way. I wined and dined her, pampered her with massages and affection, and talked to her about our future together, expressing my love for her. I felt like I was making progress when she started crying after her 4th glass of wine, her guilt bubbling to the surface. I asked her what was troubling her, but she struggled to speak through her tears. I reassured her that I was willing to listen and forgive if there was something she needed to confess or if she was conflicted about something. All she could muster in response was how much she loved me. It was painful to hear her profess her love knowing that I had 4 videos of her with the other guy in our apartment. During the next 8 weeks of my trips to the Midwest, which eventually extended to 10 weeks, I recorded over 41 hours of her intimate moments with her coworker. Surprisingly, she never stayed late at work while I was away. Despite my efforts to reconnect with her every weekend, she continued to grow more distant. After witnessing this for 8 weeks, I decided I had had enough and devised a 12-step plan to leave. 1. Gather evidence. 2. Create a diversion to execute my plan. I arranged a 2-week trip for us to an all-inclusive resort in Barbados. She was thrilled. However, a week before the trip, I claimed I couldn't go and encouraged her to bring a friend instead. Her lack of disappointment confirmed it was over. She invited her coworker. 3. Terminate our apartment lease, which coincided with the end of her trip and I was the sole leaseholder. 4. Secure a job in a new town. The company I assisted in the Midwest offered me a position with a slight salary increase. 5. Find a new place to live. I secured an apartment in the aforementioned location. While she's away, follow these steps. Drive her to the airport, then return home and pack up all her belongings on the same day, Saturday. Get a new phone number, phone, and email. Delete all social media accounts by Monday. Separate our finances completely. I withdrew all the money from our joint accounts and closed them. Her share of the money was packed into her belongings. Arrange for movers to pack up my things and send them west by Monday. Take all her belongings to her mother's house, which was 600 miles away. I managed to fit everything into the back and bed of my F-250 crew cab between Tuesday and Saturday. Provide her mother with the evidence. Begin my new life. I made sure not to do anything illegal, ensuring that nothing of hers went missing. It was tough to pack up all her things so neatly. I've never cried so hard in my life. I've read countless stories on Reddit where significant others promise they won't do it again after being caught, but they never stop. I hoped she would confess genuinely so we could move forward, but she never did. She came close twice, but the secret was too heavy for her to share. On Tuesday morning, I left our apartment north of DC for the last time. It took me 10 hours to reach her mom's house. What I encountered there caught me off guard. I arrived at her mom's house around 8 in the evening, surprising her since I hadn't announced my visit. They lived in a gated community, so I had to buzz her house from the front gate. She was waiting for me outside when I drove up. It was clear she had been crying as she hugged me tightly, sobbing that she suspected her husband of cheating on her with a younger, thinner, and prettier woman. Stunned, I held her for what felt like 10 minutes as she cried on my shoulder. Once she calmed down, I asked if we could talk inside. After we went in, I inquired about her husband's whereabouts, and she mentioned he claimed to be going fishing with his buddies at a remote cabin an hour away. Then she added, he hates fishing. She shared all the signs she had picked up on, revealing it had been going on for about a year. So, after a bit of digging, we discovered a credit card hold charge for a 5-star hotel just 20 minutes away. A call later confirmed her husband was indeed there for a 4-night stay, cheating with his mistress. 2 peas in a pod, I remarked. What? She asked. 2 peas in a pod, I repeated. Your husband is cheating on you, and your daughter is cheating on me. That's why I came here to drop off her stuff and move to XXXX. I showed her the evidence in a binder with screen captures I had taken. After looking at the first few pages, she looked at me with shock. We hugged and cried for a good 30 minutes. Then she said, stop crying. She looked at me and added, well, tonight there's nothing we can do about it except for you and me to finish these 3 bottles of Moscato and have fun in every room of the house. She grabbed 2 wine glasses and a bottle of Moscato, then walked out to their private pool deck, saying, are you coming out here, or are you going to focus on revenge? I won't go into much detail because I don't want to get too explicit, but that night and for the next 3 days, we were intimate non-stop. We explored every part of each other's bodies. I lost count of how many times we made love during that time. After those days, we said our passionate goodbyes, and I drove to my new place. She kept me updated on everything that happened when my now ex-fiancé returned. The day she got back was dramatic. I canceled my phone on the morning of her return. So when she landed and called for a ride, the disconnected phone signaled trouble. She ended up having her lover take her home. He dropped her off and left. When she arrived at the door, a strange couple, the new tenants, greeted her, and she panicked. She tried calling me numerous times, but the number was no longer valid. She went to stay with her girlfriends for a while because her coworker was already married. When she called her mom in a panic, her mom informed her that I had come down and dropped off all her belongings along with her money, 600 miles away. Her mom didn't disclose the details of our intimate encounter but did reveal that she knew about her infidelity. She mentioned that I had found a new job, a new place to stay, and a new life far away from her and our former friends. Additionally, she revealed that her parents were separating due to her father's infidelity. She spent days crying and took a week off from work, finding solace in the arms of her married lover. Her mom never disclosed my whereabouts. I had completely cut ties with that part of my life. The only connection I had to my past was through my ex-fiancé's mom, who has kept our secret to this day. My ex-fiancé was ghosted without a trace. Guys, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to leave a like, subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on other future stories like this one. Also, share this video. It helps us a lot. Our team wishes you a fantastic day.